watching Barnstable This Morning. This morning I am joined by Stuart Rapp. Stuart is the chairman of the Shellfishing Committee. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
You're quite welcome. Nice to meet you.
It is so interesting. We've been talking to every board, committee, and commission chair just to get a feel of what the committee is in charge of. Can you talk to me a little bit in general terms about what the Shellfish Committee handles?
Our charge primarily, Sarah, is to advise the town manager and town council on shellfish issues that they're trying to grapple with. So if they have a question relative to a shellfish issue, then it would be posed to our committee.
Wonderful. Some of the things I was looking over your agenda items over the past year, and one of the things that I noticed is you actually helped to maybe update a little bit some licensure regulations as far as aquaculture goes.
Right. The town is involved with aquaculture in this respect. Earth that is underwater that is determined to be barren, that's defined as it's not productive shellfish growing habitat, can then be used by individuals as a farm to grow shellfish. There's a particular area in Barnstable Harbor that was designated as an aquaculture site by the state and the Army Corps of Engineers years ago. And then the town licenses individuals to go out and on a 2-acre parcel farm shellfish. So there are certain regulations that our committee drafted back in the 90s and most recently have done some amending of those regulations to try and bring them up to date. It's a fantastic operation right now. Their shellfish farming is what they're doing. And one of the side effects or benefits of that farming operation is that the spat from the shellfish that the farmers are raising gets into the water column, and then all of a sudden there's benefits that us family diggers can harvest the quahogs and the oysters that result from that operation. So it's a great thing.
I've heard a lot of discussion too about how some of these shellfish farms can actually help to clean up our waterways.
No question. Oysters are the filter feeders. And I know that there are statistics out there relative to the amount of water that they can filter over the course of a day. And it's rather remarkable. And I know that Chesapeake Bay, for instance, is using oysters as a way to filter the water. So it's certainly a side benefit. I know the farmers are growing the oysters for purposes of harvesting and selling them, but certainly the town benefits by the efforts that the oysters have to filter, certain nutrients, oftentimes nitrogen, out of the water, which benefits our water quality.
Yeah, a lot of benefits there. So we have the economic benefit of providing jobs and income to our community, but also cleaning up the water and
Absolutely.
Sort of using this natural resource that we have. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about too is, do you have a lot of participation from some of these farmers? Do any of these shellfish farmers come and talk to you about maybe what needs changed in some of the regulations? Do you hear a lot of feedback from them?
Absolutely. We have a meeting every third Wednesday of the month, and it's over on Finney's Lane at the Natural Resources building across the street from police station. And 7:30, third Wednesday, it's regularly attended by individual family diggers, aquaculturists. In fact, on our committee, we have 3 aquaculture license holders. So they represent their interests on the committee. But regularly, individuals come to our committee either before and ask to be put on the agenda, or they'll speak directly through the Shellfish Constable, Mr. Doug Calwitt, or one of his able-bodied assistants, Tom Marcotti. They'll ask questions of them, and then through them, those questions will be posed to the committee. But there's regular public involvement at the committee level because it's a very important aspect, I think, of our community. People like to come to the Cape and do some shellfishing. So it's a real benefit, I think, that the town offers to not only its residents, but also its visitors.
Do you know, I hate to throw you a curveball, you may not know this. Is a visitor shellfish license, is it the same cost or is it higher than, say, a resident?
If you're a resident, it's a certain cost. If you're over a certain age, it's a little less. If you're visiting, you can buy what is a non-residence license. You can buy a non-residence short-term license, or you can buy a non-resident long-term license. When
Wonderful.
I say long-term,
I didn't
yearly.
even know that was available to people visiting our town, so that's really cool to know. Thank you for sharing that.
Certainly.
One of the other things I was reading in your annual report too is that you guys are really concerned about some of the habitats, and particularly some of them, there's lost habitat in certain places. Talk to me a little bit about that discussion that's ongoing.
It's an ongoing issue as far as our committee is concerned. The issue is the many users of the water column. We're coming at the use of the water surface, water body, from a shellfishing perspective. Then there are landowners who live on the water. There are landowners who have docks and boats. There are boaters. And so there are various user groups, I wouldn't say fighting for, but all, using the three bays on the south side, Barnstable Harbor on the north side. And what we see from the Shellfish Committee is people who put a demand on that, on the water, and that demand is, for instance, if you have a dock, you put a structure in the water, and that structure is typically there forever. That structure, the placement of that structure can disturb the habitat. The placement of a boat to that structure, tying a boat to that, taking the boat away, putting the boat, docking the boat, that can cause destruction to the habitat by way of prop wash. Prop dredging is a term that's used. So we're regularly concerned with the effects of dock owners, boat users, to the habitat. So we're all trying to work together, be respectful of the resource. It's limited. When habitat is lost, from our committee's perspective, that means it's lost for, most likely, forever. So we'd like to certainly promote projects that don't destroy the habitat. We'd like to promote projects that encourage rebuilding the habitat, because if we don't have the habitat, then clearly wild shellfish have no place to grow.
Absolutely. You are speaking about this, and my mind is going, and I'm thinking, well, do you work hand in hand then with the Conservation Commission when it comes to some of these projects maybe going before some of the other boards in the town for approval? So if someone wants to build a dock, do you get to have input in those types of projects?
Regularly at our shellfish meetings, we'll review notices of intent, which is the form for requesting permission to build a dock in the town. Those are vetted through the Conservation Commission, and we would regularly then give our input to the Conservation Commission, indicating what we'd like for the Conservation Commission to consider relative to shellfish issues. Much like the Waterways Committee, they would then give input to the Conservation Commission, so that again the Conservation Commission can hear from other user groups and make a rational decision as to whether that structure is appropriate for that piece of land.
Wonderful. And how long have you been working with the Shellfish Committee?
Since the 90s. I volunteered back when we didn't have any aquaculture regulations at the time. And so I started back in the 90s, and I've been with the Shellfish Committee ever since.
What made you want to take part in the Shellfish Committee and give back to the community? It is a volunteer position. I know you meet once a month, but still it's a lot of work. What made you want to be a part of it?
Well, I grew up in the town and was an active, or am an active, shellfish person, and felt it was necessary to give back to the town, and in a way that I felt like it was productive. So I liked to shellfish, and I thought it was a need that needed to be filled, which was to help the shellfish or shell fishery in the town. So back in the 90s, I said, I'll volunteer.
It's time to get involved.
Yeah,
Well, thank you
exactly.
so much for doing that, and thank you also for coming in and telling us all about it. It's great to know more about the Shellfish Committee. Really appreciate
It's
it.
my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Stuart Rapp is the chair of the Barnstable Shellfish Committee. For Barnstable This Morning, I'm Sarah Mantle.